Welcome to the Deep Dive. You're tuning in because, well, you're probably keen to understand something pretty significant, how technology is really reshaping our reading habit and, the whole landscape of literature.
Yeah, it's a big topic, and we've pulled together some fascinating material, stuff from demotive literature, Wikipedia on attention spans, obviously lots on book talk from social media.
Right, and that Vassar piece on distracted reading, too.
Exactly. So the mission today, I guess, is to get beyond just scratching the surface and really explore how tech is changing, not just what we read, but maybe more importantly, how we read.
Yeah.
The good and the bad.
Okay, so looking at these sources, what's the first thing that kind of jumps out?
Well, it's this real tension, I think,
Yeah.
between connection on one hand and this sort of fragmentation on the other. Technology's definitely created new ways for readers to connect, discuss books.
Like online communities?
Exactly. But it also brings these challenges, big challenges, really, to the kind of focused attention that, deep reading often needs.
Okay, let's maybe start with the positive side then. This idea of democratizing discussion and discovery. It feels like some of those old barriers, like needing to be in academic circles or whatever, have kind of lowered.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look at platforms like Goodreads, Instagram, Twitter. They've become these incredibly powerful engines for building book communities online.
Just with a hashtag, right?
Right. Yeah. It's amazing. Something simple like hashtag Bookstagram or hashtag Book Talk, and boom, you're instantly connected to this global network of readers, people interested in the same things.
And it's not just finding people like you, is it? That Elle India piece made a really interesting point.
About the types of books.
Yeah, that while, maybe platforms like Book Talk are big for romance, sci-fi, YA, they've also really amplified voices from marginalized communities.
That's a huge point. POC, BIPOC, LGBTQ plus authors. It feels like a really significant shift in who actually gets heard, doesn't it?
It does.
And what's really striking is how these platforms aren't just like reflecting demand that's already there. They seem to be actively creating it.
For stories that maybe traditional publishing might have missed.
Precisely. It suggests this real power shift, in literary influence. Jack Edwards talked about this on YouTube, calling Book Talk basically the world's biggest book club.
Right.
And in a club that massive, genuine reader enthusiasm can make a book huge. Doesn't matter so much about the traditional marketing budget.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting for me. Tech hasn't just changed who we talk to about books, but also what and how we read. That demotive literature article mentioned how the internet makes it so much easier now to explore different genres, international stuff.
Yeah, expanding horizons, fostering cross-cultural understanding. That definitely sounds like a win.
But
yeah,
there's always a but, isn't there?
Well, yeah, the sheer amount of stuff online, it also feeds into what that article called a more fragmented reading culture.
Fragmented out.
Like with so much competing for our attention, news, social media, videos, everything, the suggestion is readers might be more likely to just skim across lots of things instead of really diving deep into one long work.
That really clicks, doesn't it?
No.
In our world. The article even talked about short-form content, tweets, memes, TikToks.
Right.
And how maybe that's conditioning us, making us prefer quick bites of info over, say, a long novel that demands sustained focus.
It's like our brains are being maybe slightly rewired for speed over depth. Or that's the concern anyway.
Which leads us neatly into attention span, right? Wikipedia had some useful stuff on this.
Defining it as, how long you can concentrate on something without getting distracted.
And they made that distinction. What was it? Transient versus sustained.
Yeah, exactly. Transient attention is that quick response to something new, a notification, a headline.
Okay.
Whereas selective sustained attention is what you need for, reading a book properly. Focusing over time.
So scrolling Twitter is transient.
Probably, yeah.
But reading a novel needs that sustained kind.
Right.
And Wikipedia said sustained attention for healthy teens and adults could be around, 5 hours?
Yeah.
Which sounds like a lot.
It does, but they also said it's because we can repeatedly refocus.
Ah.
Which makes you wonder, though, is that initial ability, that sort of will to refocus on something demanding like a novel, is that getting weaker when there's so much easy, instantly gratifying stuff around? And that Wikipedia entry mentioned a study finding a pretty strong link between attention span in preschool and how well kids did in math and reading much later, like age 21.
Wow. So those early attention skills are really foundational.
Seems like it. Crucial for engaging with complex stuff later on.
This takes directly to the concerns in that Vassar article, doesn't it?
Absolutely. They talk about our hyper-digital culture, how it creates this expectation of immediacy, everything now, and this constant pressure to multitask.
Which sounds like the total opposite of what you need for deep reading, for really getting lost in a complex story.
Exactly. The Vassar piece brought up Jennifer L. Roberts' idea of deceleration.
Deceleration.
Yeah, basically saying it's essential. We need to consciously slow down our engagement with information, push back against that urgency, especially for real learning. And they shared some pretty compelling research, too. Students interrupted by instant messages. They took way longer to read something.
Okay, that's predictable.
But here's the kicker. They also did worse on comprehension tests, even after you took out the time spent on the interruption itself.
Oh, wow. So it's not just lost time, it's affecting actual understanding.
Yeah, it points to a real cognitive cost, a tangible cost to being constantly distracted while trying to read.
So, okay, let's zoom in on Book Talk then. It feels like ground zero for a lot of this debate.
It really does.
It's this massive force influencing what people buy, what they read. But is it good? Or is it, like some people were saying on social media, actually ruining reading?
Well, this really brings us back to that double-edged sword idea, doesn't it? Because on one side, yeah, you dig into social media, TikTok comments, you find plenty of people frustrated, saying the hype ruins the book for them.
Right, like expectations get too high.
Exactly. Or they feel the community can get toxic.
Yeah, saw comments about that.
Or just feeling let down by a book everyone was raving about.
We saw things like reading experiences being ruined, Book Talk getting out of hand, people feeling literally terrible about hyped books. So clearly, for some, it's not enhancing things.
No. But then you find the complete opposite view, too. Loads of users calling Book Talk a safe space, finding great recommendations, connecting with other readers. For them, it's been a really valuable tool, discovering new authors, new genres they wouldn't have found otherwise.
Right. Comments like, sorry, not sorry, I love Book Talk. You get that real sense of community enjoyment.
Yeah.
And people saying it helped them start reading again after years. That's pretty powerful.
It absolutely is. It shows its potential to re-engage people with books.
The Reddit threads we looked at brought up some, let's say, more critical points.
There was this recurring concern about maybe a lack of critical thinking or in-depth analysis in some Book Talk discussion.
More like fan reactions than literary critique.
Kind of, yeah. Some users felt it was more about enthusiastic sharing, less about thoughtful analysis. Which isn't necessarily bad, but it's different.
Yeah, if the main focus is just that immediate emotional hit, the deeper stuff might get missed.
Yeah.
Jack Edwards also mentioned this, didn't he? Acknowledging criticisms about toxicity.
He did. And character assassinations, as he put it, for just having a different opinion on a popular book. So, yeah, it's definitely not perfect. There are challenges within the community.
Another interesting bit from Reddit, the idea that, okay, maybe lots of popular Book Talk books aren't exactly high literature.
Someone said Wattpad level of writing.
Yeah, something like that. But the point was, for many readers, it's just about enjoyment, escapism.
And El India made that point too, didn't they? Reading's a hobby. People do it for different reasons, unwinding, fun, learning. There's no single right way to be a reader.
That's such an important perspective. More inclusive. But Reddit also had some, well, surprising takes. Someone suggested Book Talk books are like modern-day Victorian serials.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Like a snapshot of our current taste. A time capsule.
Exactly. Which is a really fascinating way to think about it, isn't it?
It is. But then another concern from Reddit was about these self-proclaimed book reviewers on TikTok, maybe lacking a background in literary critique, focusing more on personal expectations, maybe.
And the worry was this could lead to, what? More formulaic books driven by trends?
Potentially, yeah. If the feedback loop is mostly about immediate surface-level reactions.
And going back to that ruining reading debate, El India had that really thought-provoking idea about it maybe being linked to, what was it, unwanted feminization.
Right. The idea that because reading, especially certain genres popular on Book Talk, it's often associated with women, its cultural value gets questioned or dismissed when it becomes mainstream, particularly in a field historically dominated by men.
That's a really critical lens to apply. Makes you think about where some criticisms might be coming from.
Definitely. And Jack Edwards also pointed out that the label Book Talk book often gets stuck on after a book gets popular. Many existed before TikTok blew up.
Right.
And he argued Book Talk has actually shown a light on gaps in publishing, like showing huge reader demand for female perspective retelling or stories about female rage.
So it's not just shaping tastes, it's reflecting desires that were already there.
Exactly. Amplifying.
Okay, so with all these changes, how we find books, read them, talk about them, what's the impact on that, deeper level of reading? And are there ways to, well, handle it? The Vassar article seemed hopeful, maybe.
Yeah, it offered some interesting insights, like that research showing close reading isn't just processing words. It actually activates multiple brain areas, touch, movement, spatial stuff.
Wow. So it's a really immersive, full-body kind of experience.
That's the idea, much more than just passively taking in info.
Which makes that crutch and the Vassar faculty raised even more pointed. If students say they've read a book in this distracted digital age, have they really experienced it properly?
Have they connected with it in the way the author maybe intended, allowed for that deeper understanding? It makes you ask, what are we losing if we can't sustain that?
Are there real costs, as the article put it?
The article suggests yes, definitely, even if we don't always see those costs ourselves. But importantly, Vassar wasn't just doom and gloom. They looked at using tech to...
Right. Like those digital annotation tools.
Yeah, tools that can actually make you slow down, engage word by word. It's kind of clever using the tech that distracts to instead foster attention.
That is clever.
And that summer Moodle project they did, having incoming students engage with Alison Bechdel's work through video lectures, multimedia responses from faculty and fields.
Sounds cool. What was the point?
It seemed to be about modeling how to read attentively, showing the richness you can find with different perspectives, building that kind of intellectual scaffolding, you know?
Guiding students towards more careful reading.
Exactly. And they also stress traditional things, too, like needing quieter reading space campus, reading salon, creating environments that actually support focus.
It all comes back to cultivating patience, doesn't it? For that close reading and how that builds reflective habits.
Yeah.
Critical thinking, which is kind of the core of a liberal arts education, right?
Absolutely. Developing not just understanding, but analysis, personal reflection.
Interestingly, Teach magazine even suggested TikTok itself could be an educational tool.
Really? How so?
Well, engaging digital natives where they are, encouraging creativity, even using it like a search engine for authentic stuff.
Okay, I can see the potential, but...
With huge privacy concerns, obviously. They mentioned that too. I was going to keep that in mind with these platforms.
Right. That tension again. Potential versus peril. Because while Teach magazine sees educational possibility,
those Reddit threads were full of people saying social media, especially short videos, does shorten attention span. It creates a craving for snackable content.
yeah, we saw users saying point blank that TikTok and similar platforms have made it harder for them personally to focus on long reads, that constant need for something new, that quick hit.
It really hammers home that concept of the attention economy, doesn't it? That term TikTok used, and Wikipedia too, this constant fight for our focus.
It really does. And someone on Reddit even suggested Jataka meditation, focused gazing, as a way to actively try and improve concentration, reclaim some control.
It's a reminder that we're not just passively swept along, we can make choices.
Exactly. Which I think leads to the idea that navigating all this requires some self-awareness, figuring out what works for you. Alindia's point feels really relevant here. Reading's a hobby. No one right way to do it. People read for all sorts of reasons. Engagement will vary. Yeah.
And Jack Edwards' advice seemed practical too. Diversify your searches on Book Talk. Use specific hashtags, hashtag classic literature, hashtag queer literature, whatever fits your interest to find creators you actually connect with.
It puts the power back in the listener's hands, doesn't it? To curate their own experience, find communities that support the kind of reading they value.
So wrapping this up, it's clear technology's impact is, well, complicated.
Definitely multifaceted. It's brought amazing opportunities for access, democratized discussion globally, huge positives. But we absolutely have to grapple with the challenges too, the very real challenges to deep engagement, to sustained attention.
And platforms like Book Talk. Yeah, they get criticized. They have issues.
But they're also undeniably this powerful force for discovery and community now. It's dynamic. It's changing all the time.
So for everyone listening, maybe take a second to think about your own reading habits in this digital world. How do you navigate all the information, all the opinions fighting for your attention?
Yeah, what works for you? What helps you get the reading experience you actually want?
Which leads us to maybe one last thought to leave people with. In a world so full of short-form stuff, instant hits, how can we intentionally practice those slow reading skills, the ones that unlock deeper understanding, critical thought, reflection?
And maybe counterintuitively, what role could technology itself play in helping us do that?
Definitely something to keep thinking about.